Good evening and welcome to Behind Closed Doors with myself and my co-host Sue. And we've got
Hello.
Jean's in the background. Hello, Jean.
Hello. She's going home Wednesday.
She's going home, bless her.
Yeah. John Wedger's coming to get her.
I spoke with, I spoke with John. I've a couple of messages with John. And he's talking about doing a podcast with Sean. And asked me if I wanted to do one with him, like a joint podcast, and Sean's up for that. But I spoke to Shelley earlier on and just said, look, and I will say it even live on camera, that I don't care what goes on with any other group. My sole aim is for the Beechholme survivors. It's always been about Beechholme. And you know as well as I do, Sue, that in groups we all fall out. We fell out for a little while.
Yeah.
But I've always maintained myself as a Beechholme survivor. And I've carried that name forward.
Yeah.
For over 2 years. And you call yourself the Warriors, and you're a sistership with Sandy is Quarries Warriors.
Yeah.
And we all work with each other because we've become friends. We've got a similar background. In our case, a valid bonded background with being in the same place.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing really you can tell us about Beechholme because we were there firsthand. We saw the cruelty. We saw the punishment. We saw the beatings, and we were on the end of some of them. We were on the end of some of their harsh tongues, some of their harsh beatings, some of the sexual abuse that went on. It was just the torment and the torture as well, and the psychological damage. What pisses me off more than anything is that every time you try to talk to anybody of any importance, i.e. your own MP or anybody like that, they seem to wash their hands with it. They don't seem to want to take it on board. And I think to myself, for years and years and years, you know, they've been so implicit in a lot of this stuff. These are the guys that are supposed to be representing their constituents, raping and pillaging, you know, their own constituents' children in some respects.
Tell you now, I meant to tell you and I forgot all about it because I weren't well. I've now got a name of an MP who's willing to help us.
Really?
From John Wedger, yeah.
Well, I never. Yeah, John did say something to me that we might get to Parliament and have a one-to-one with an MP.
Might be him.
He was saying something like that. Sandy, you're late on duty.
Because he's been rabbiting.
He's been rabbiting. He's been doing something else.
Yeah, he's been rabbiting.
He's always rabbiting.
I was just ending my New Year party. That's the last of the guests away.
Oh, right.
So, look, kind of linking in what I'm saying is Sandy's joined us now, and Sandy's from Quarries in Scotland. And although it looks so picturesque, the hidden secrets that place holds are beyond any belief. And brought me almost to tears when Sandy was showing me around, and he said to me, I looked out of that window there when I was being abused. And you kind of like, as a survivor, you look at it and you turn around and picture yourself in that position. What would you be doing? You know, apart from praying, apart from clinging on to dear life or whatever it might be. And I kind of was with Sandy that day when he was showing me, and I got a little bit emotional, but I didn't want to show too much of my feelings, because when you start talking about it with me, and I think Sandy is the same, we get quite emotional. It brings that little boy back, and whatever we say, we're kind of old men now, but that little boy is still a part of us.
Yeah.
And those memories will never fade.
No, I agree. Do agree. But let's see. Graham Sargent has said that he wants to go and see Pretty Patel at the Home Office. He's wrote to her, but we've done the Home Office, and the Home Office made us false promises, said they'd help us, and they did absolutely nothing. Yeah, so I don't see.
I'll explain that. What happened was Victoria Atkins was the constituency for Alfred Horncastle. Took me to a constituency office, or invited me to a constituency office to talk about Beechholme, where I gave her the interim report. And you was not many people know actually. You went one better because I was actually with you today, and you went to 10 Downing Street and actually gave it to. Well, it would have been the concierge or
yeah.
I think they're called Queen's Messengers, the guys that are actually on the door. They're linked to the post office, or years ago they were linked to Royal Mail and postal services, but they were called Queen's Messengers. Because I used to know one that worked at Downing Street, and friends with his father for donkey's years, one of my best mates. Well, he's his father, he's nearly 90 now, and he's just retired. His son's just retired from Downing Street.
Mm-hmm.
But you went, you took the actual report to Downing Street to hand it in, and I think Theresa May virtually, because Theresa May was the
Prime Minister,
Prime Minister at the time, and all she basically did was pass the buck to Wandsworth Council.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a bit like Sturgeon in Scotland and my MP this end. You know, they're all broken promises. They're going to do something for you, or promise they'll look into it or do something, but they don't actually do anything.
No.
And this is what the great shame is. And my answer to that would be: is it because there are other MPs involved that the name of a lot of MPs have been tarnished by being involved in like the Westminster paedophile ring, which they won't admit to, or associations with Pi?
Yeah. Well, we know that what we've done, we've tried. So now we try this MP. Graham can go to Pretty Patel, but I think we get the same thing as what we got with Victoria Atkins.
Who's going to get?
No. Well, he's going to.
I mean, I've written to nearly most of the MPs from different constituencies, and all they turn around, if you're lucky enough to get a reply, they will turn around and say, you know, you have to write to your own MP because you're not part of our constituency, so on and so forth. Now, that's all well and good. One or two of them are a little bit more sympathetic. I'm sorry to hear about what happened to you. It's as if they've read it, where others have just filed it off or filed it off. And
my MP is no good.
And don't even take any notice of it. And what was that? I didn't catch that.
You said her MP was no good.
Yeah, and probably I forgot what I was going to say.
She always does.
Go on, Sammy, do you want to say something?
Yeah, quite right. MPs. We've been lucky enough up here in Scotland. We have met with a few MPs, John Swinney, Kaz Dugsdale, a few of them. And honest to God, this is true. The best response we've ever had in our life was after Kaz Dugsdale. And that's true. And she put us in contact with other MPs who could help us, and they did. They did help us. And that was to get Quarriers to admit. Now, when we first started this up, we wanted Quarriers Orphan Homes to admit the new children were being abused, and we wanted an apology. And it was through Kaz Dugsdale we got that done. No ass, no buts. It was through Kaz Dugsdale. And come here, what, Jay? What was your MP's name? Jenny Mara was the other one from Dundee, Member of Parliament for Dundee. And Jenny Mara, honest to God, I'm serious, that woman bent over backwards to help us. And Jenny Mara was amazing. Now, I wasn't in Jenny Mara's constituency because I'm down in the west coast of Scotland. But she says that she could get in contact with my MP for this area and they would work together with Jane and I. And they did. And it was at the onset of the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry. That day, the very first day of it, we were standing outside with the visual, we had a wee service and stuff. And news came to me, but I had already known, but I kept it quiet, that Quarriers Orphan Homes stated to the Scottish, it was the lawyers, gave an apology on behalf of Quarriers that yes, they did know children were getting abused. And also they gave an apology. But that apology was given to the inquiry, not to the victims. Now, we are still fighting to get Quarriers to give us a written apology. And Quarriers are refusing this. But we can get an apology. And there's a but comes with us. And that relates to the Scottish Government has got an Act of Parliament, the 26th of September 1964 Act. Now, I've got a petition I started up again to get this Act abolished.
That's strange you say that, Sandy, because that isn't too dissimilar to what we had with Beechholme, because Wandsworth Council saying they were not responsible for Beechholme prior 1965. So what they're trying to say is they're trying to encapsulate it in the same kind of agreement, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I've been doing my homework on this, and I was asked why the 26th of September 1964, and I've got my answer. I know why. Now, just now, the Scottish Government came out with this Act, 26th of September 1964. Anyone who was abused in a care home in Scotland cannot take their Quarriers to court, nor the Scottish Government, nor their abusers to court. Right?
Similar to Sosa's Shirley Oaks.
Now, right now, I can get £80,000 in my hand. I can get that tonight if I want it. Put into my bank account. Only if I sign this waiver stating that I will not take the Scottish Government to court, nor will I take Quarriers to court, nor will I take my abusers to court, nor will I ever speak to anyone. This is not just me, this is every victim in Scotland.
Silence.
If we sign that,
Silence,
yeah,
money.
if we'll get this £80,000, but we can't take the Scottish Government to court. We can't take the orphanage to court, nor our abusers to court, nor will we ever speak to anyone again about this. Now, if we take a breakdown and we need a wee bit of help,
I'll come to you in a minute, sir.
we can't even go to our doctor and say, well, I was a child of abuse. We can't. We get fined.
Yeah.
How's that justice? But
yeah, well,
we
we are actually under the same similar thing, Sandy, and Sosa, Shirley Oaks, kind of like, not only did they do a similar type of thing with the £10,000 they paid out of them, but they wanted written guarantees that they would virtually do the same. It's kind of like an underarm tactic or an underlying tactic they want to put into it. So you wanted to say something? Let's come in for a minute, Sandy.
Yeah, the 1964 Act, they're not allowed to use it down here. It hasn't been abolished, but they're not allowed to use it against us. And I think Brian Clare had something to do with that. And I have been told by quite a few people, Liz Davis, she was one as well.
Davis,
yeah, they're not allowed to use that against us down here, but it hasn't been abolished.
Yeah.
But, you know, Beechholme has never been recognised by Wandsworth, never.
I'm glad you say that, sir, because you were very persistent with that, and it's very, very true.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever, ever. And for the size what Beechholme was, and when you think there were 24 houses, and if you say, okay, they use other bits and pieces and other houses and there were other places they could have used in Beechholme, not just the cottages. And I'm looking back at some of the records, and it says at one stage it could have held up to 900 children. But I would say any one stage that I was there was probably 300.
Yeah, 300 to 400. Yeah, but you know, we've done everything everyone else has done.
Still a lot of children, though.
Yeah, we've, like with Shirley Oaks, because we was sort of twinned with them. We did things, you know, sports and that with them. Now, our abusers went to their home, their abusers came to ours.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Now, yeah, my abuser did get put in prison, but it wasn't for us in Beechholme. It was to do with the Boy Scouts. Right. He wasn't brought up on it, and yet the police come and interviewed me when I got put in the hospital a year after, and I never heard no more. But he did get 3 years for that, but not for us. Now, Wandsworth are denying that anything happened to us in there. How can they deny it when the abuser, all right, wasn't for us, was taken to court and imprisoned? You know, he was still an abuser. And they didn't look into what was actually going on in his house. You know, so they just tossed us aside. And the head of the thing was actually a paedophile himself of Wandsworth. You know, and we've just been pushed to the wayside. You know, they don't want to know. And the head of it now, we've written to him, we've asked for meetings. He is a really horrible man. He just blocks you straight away. He won't even acknowledge you on the phone, nothing. You know, so we've, out of all the London boroughs that are for Shirley Oaks and for Beechholme, they've just ignored us as if the others have all got justice. We haven't. We're the only home that hasn't. And there were quite a lot of victims did come forward, but obviously they've dwindled down. You know, we've got me, Alan, Jean, are the main ones from Beechholme that have stuck to this. We've got a few that are with us, but they they do nothing for us. They do nothing to help us get where we want to get.
There is a thing though, with some of the victims, I don't know if I like that word, some of survivors, most survivors, or anything like that, go through such shock, such trauma. And some people, it affects them so badly, they can't even face Joe Public. They can't go out, they go inwards. I'm trying to sum it up and find the right word for it. It's kind of like they recluse and go into their own shell.
They can't accept.
They don't accept. Yeah, that is one way of looking at it. They don't accept. It's hard to accept in some respects because, like we've said already, it still lives with you for life. It's in your memory. So the acceptance is what you have to accept to get on in life anyway.
But the thing is,
doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Yeah, but the thing is, when we had the first meeting at Wandsworth,
yeah,
how many people were there?
Oh, there was a good few, wasn't there?
Right. Then they came out to Parliament with us, stood by us. Then they've disappeared. So it wasn't as if they were there because they, you know, weren't there. They was. Yeah. And then you get, you know, I was in contact with quite a few, and you know, one of them said to me, "Oh, I'm not interested in it all, but if there's any money going, I'll have it." You know,
that's selfish.
It's not just about the money, for Christ's sake. You know, it's about getting justice for what happened to us.
So can I just interrupt a minute? Do you know the number for getting on? Because can you ring Brian and try and get him on? He's trying to get on and he's having a problem getting on.
Right, I'll come off and I'll go on there.
Will you try for us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Sandy, you was going to say something anyway, so it's a good time for you to come in. I'm trying to just going to text Brian. So do you want to go and say you was going to say something?
Yeah, I was going back to this. I was going back to this carry on where why the 26th of September 1964 Act. And do you know why that date was chosen?
Yeah, go on.
The reason that date was chosen, the 26th of September 1964, child abuse during the World Wars, the First, Second World War, right? There were many, many children put into orphanages.
Yeah.
Many. There were many children taken away out of the cities of London, Glasgow, and taken into the country. There were thousands, hundreds of thousands of children sexually abused during this time.
Yeah.
Sexually abused. Child abuse. Now, I've spent hours researching this, hours upon hours. Now, child abuse in the UK was during the 1930s, the 1940s, into the 50s to early, and I repeat, early 1960s was when child abuse in the UK was at an all-time high.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? High. So, coming back, if every single child or adult now had to take their abuser to court, how much would that cost in compensation claims? Okay. Compensation, who pays that out? Insurance companies. Insurance companies pay that out. Who owns insurance companies? The banks. Who owns the banks? You've got your answer.
Yeah. We know the link between. I'll come back to you in. Brian's just muted himself. Just if you go to the top right-hand screen, Brian, you'll probably see a little window where you can put the video in it, start video, and Sue back in. Thank you for that.
That's all right.
Brian's just got to put his video on. That's all. The top right-hand corner. If he goes on that and clicks it again.
Right, I'm trying that now. Top right-hand corner.
If you go on it, it should say mute and 3 little dots. If you click on the 3 little dots,
right,
and it should say start video.
Right, start video now. Cannot fail to start the video. Cameras, please select another video and camera settings.
Is there not a video, picture of a video on your screen?
No. Something, like I said, there's something the matter with my camera at the minute. So,
well, you've got mute and you've got the 3 dots. You're there anyway, Brian. I'll have to just can you just say, can I come in for a minute?
Okay, no problem.
Interject with us. So, Sandy, what you said there was absolutely true, and it's true on every single thing. But I've got to say, this thing that's going about today, it's getting beyond the joke. I know people have died for it. Those that are ill, very ill, infirm, underlying issues, whatever you want to call it, elderly, and suffering with various types of illness are going to be more susceptible because their immune system is not going to be the same. My wife's immune system is terrible. It's completely shot to pieces. And at the beginning of the year, me and Sue said the same thing. We think we got this at the beginning of the year, in January time, because I got
Christmas Day.
I got flu like I never had, and Kathy got double pneumonia. And I said to Kathy, it'd have been March, they would have turned around and said to you, it was COVID. And it's almost getting to me now that I hate saying that word. I really, really do. It's almost saying if you write that word or something like that, straight away they're on you on Facebook and all that, and they come tumbling down you as if to say you're going to write something naughty about COVID, or we've got to quickly censor it because we've got to cut out this malarkey and keep this pretense going for a little bit longer, or as long as we can string it out, or as long as, I don't know. I know some big things are supposed to be happening this week in America. I think some arrests have been happening this weekend as we talk in the United States, but it's not got out yet. But I think Trump is coming to the time when he's supposed to hand over the inauguration or the presidency to Joe Biden. And Trump is supposed to be coming out with a lot of things, and apparently something's happened this weekend, and there's something going to be announced. I think it's on Tuesday. If I'm right, is that the 6th of the 1st?
Yeah, no, that's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
Yeah, well, something's supposed to be happening Tuesday or Wednesday this week. And it's may even bring the closure of Washington, or to bring politics to a standstill while things are being sorted out, kind of like I don't know. And there's talk of implications of Joe Biden, whatever he's done or whatever's been done, he's gonna resign under ill health. So
after all this, after all the dodginess, and he decides to bloody resign. And what was it, just so that he could say, well, I was president for so and so?
I don't know. There's something big is supposed to be happening. It's all over the internet, and it was a big thing on last night, and I was watching it till early hours this morning. But you can't say too much, because it's like anything, unless it's like we've seen our trolls against our friends, and at the end of the day, unless it's actually proven, people should be a little bit more respectful for what other people are trying to do, instead of being in the background causing dispersions and causing other troubles and problems for other people. Why don't they come out on the street with us or do something to help, instead of being like keyboard warriors and saying things? Because I'm going to come and I'm going to bring Brian in now, because I think Brian's been having a few problems. Have you been having a few problems, Brian?
It's mainly down to Sunderland City Council, basically. What it is, it's somebody I never knew much about. I sort of knew little bits about. Yeah, I was at the election campaign last year when I stood for election, right? And he come up to us and he started accusing us of being right wing. Yeah. Now, right wing means like Nazism. You hate blacks. You hate Jews. Now, at the end of the day, there's a lot of people come forward and say, I mean, there's one lad who's known as 16 years, and he come forward and I think what's happening is, can you remember the case with Len Lowther, where Len was accused of being a paedophile, and he took the person to court and he won 20 grand?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, it happened in Sunderland, yeah.
Yeah, well, see, the trouble is with Witherwack, this is another point, and that's why I like to have you on board, and we're standing with Quarries and with Beechholme, was that because Witherwack's not even mentioned. Well,
I mean, over the years, I've gradually thought, people's entitled to information from it. That's the law, But when people such as Cathy Smith was being denied plain stuff, I looked into it, and that's when I knew. And I mean, Operation Rose isn't that well known. I mean, it was the first investigation of its kind after North Wales. Now, North Wales was the biggest in the UK at the time. You know what I mean? And gradually, the more, I mean, in them days, when you were talking about which way the police are acting now, in them days, I suppose I got on with them, I had a good rapport with them. You know what I mean? But now what I'm finding is they just don't give a shit, private. They're private, They're
literally a law unto themselves.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, I don't know much about the child abuse unit now. It's South Shields, because they actually transferred that over there,
Yeah.
But it's just, you hear rumours and stuff, But the stuff I have seen is that Northumbria Police are definitely not interested. There's a number of people gone forward to them. I don't know the cases because I didn't want to know the cases, because I didn't want to bring it into disrepute, But at the end of the day, some of the stuff what they've said, just normal procedure, is not going ahead, you know, and that concerns me. And another thing what concerns me is Govan Hill.
Yeah.
Because I can sort of remember the investigation a few years ago.
I saw the video, Brian, of Nicola Sturgeon, where she's talking to the guy in the street, and he's begging her basically to come to Govan Hill with him.
Well, didn't Sturgeon have a duty? Didn't she have a duty to the people of Scotland?
Well, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's part and parcel of you being where you are. Like Nicola Sturgeon.
We touched on when we were talking about constituencies.
You know, but I do remember Govan Hill a few years back. I do. And obviously, even I think what it basically is, she doesn't want with Nicola Sturgeon. I mean, I followed a little bit about her, you know, but in my opinion, she doesn't want it. She doesn't want it to come out like every other MP now.
Right.
Don't want it to come out because it just doesn't concern. And I mean, I'm not being fascist here. Yeah, I'm not being fascist, but it just doesn't concern what the police would class as normal child abuse. I mean, there's nothing normal about child abuse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is, as far as I'm aware, it's the Romanies.
Yeah.
Which is the gypsies. I mean, I don't even have nothing against them, but I do know. And if anybody wants to attack us, just attack us. I don't mean yourselves, but anybody what's listening. Yeah. At the end of the day, this is organised. And remember, gypsies travel abroad. Mm-hmm. So, and the stuff I've heard is, yeah, this is not just say 2 or 3 instances of child abuse. This is organised.
Yeah, I can understand, like say Sunderland Council, you know, like Hammersmith Council or Sue's Council. What was yours, Sue? Wandsworth?
Kensington and Chelsea and Wandsworth.
Yeah.
I had both.
Well, I had both, Hammersmith and Fulham and Wandsworth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But they're kind of linked and entwined, to be truthful, because Wandsworth, if they're talking about this 1964 thing, I was in Earlsfield House before 1964.
I think the 1964 thing, if it's one thing and what Sandy was mentioning, I think that only applies to Scotland.
Does it?
Yeah.
You said that, so didn't you?
Yeah, because didn't you do something on it, Brian?
Yeah, I looked into it. I looked into it because how ignorant I was. I thought that counted for the UK. I thought Scottish law counted for the UK, but Scottish law is independent from UK law. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Did you get anything, Sandy? Did you ever get an offer made to you? I know you said earlier on you could get £80,000 today if you wanted it. Well, you know, hypothetically, in normal working hours, probably. But did you ever receive anything?
Yeah. Anyone over the age of 65 who had a ill health, they weren't going to make it, put it that way. We were given £10,000. We were given that with the condition that there were more to come, right? We were never told anything. Not one of us was ever told the full story of this. So we thought, well, that's no bad. Now, the Scottish Government started up a thing here called Future Pathways. This is John Swinney's baby, right? I cannot fault Future Pathways. I wouldn't say anything bad about them. They've been amazing to Jane and I and so many. I mean, if we want anything, and this is something that Westminster wants to get a grip of, it's a brilliant. Any victim in Scotland just now, you register with Future Pathways. Now, I was in a bad way when I first got them, real shit bad way. And it was a guy that Brian knows called Andy Pizza. And Andy told me about his Future Pathways. I had no clue. So I took his advice, contacted him, fought in the forum. And there were a young girl called Michelle Woods. And that girl, and I swear, between Jane and Michelle, I owe my life to. I wouldn't be here tonight if it wasn't for the 2 girls. Now, anything we want, we contact Future Pathways and we can get. Now, we've had holidays after this, right? Jane needed a mobility scooter, she got it. I had my house all decorated, I got a new cooker, blah, 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 stuff like that. If we need that, we contact Future Pathways, we get that. There's no limit of what we get. Look at that. You know, the Westminster government wouldn't give you that.
No.
Why?
It's not the same for us though, Sandy. I mean, you know, it's slightly different up in Scotland to what it is down south, as we've made that point. But Brian, you've never, did you, I think Brian, did you receive something, Brian, or was an offer made to you?
What?
Let me bring Brian in a minute, Sandy.
Yeah, I was offered, first of all, it was something like 8 grand. Second of all, it went up to 16 grand. And in the end, it was 26 grand. Yeah, but I didn't want to take that because that was not part of my battle. Well, our battle, you know, but some survivors wanted to take the money, which I respected, which I've always said, that's up to them, that's their choice. I say, well done. I mean, like I've said before, this money could be used to help them get professional counselling. But at the end of the day, I think the professional counsel shouldn't come out of any money what's been awarded. That should be a natural thing for people who's been abused. And I don't mean like the NHS counsel, I mean professional counselling.
Yeah, well, come back to that, Brian. Yeah. Sorry, come back to that with that £10,000 I got. I made it clear for day one, and you'll know. I stated, and my words are true, I don't want Judas money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll get the £10,000, but that money's virtually away. I don't want to big-headed here, but I put £3,000 of that. That went on fine. There are 2 women I'm supporting up here in Scotland. And I put up a reward to find these women's sons' killers. I put up £3,000 of that. There's been a few people that has really been struggling. Every one of them has suffered child abuse. And I've virtually used that money up. There's not much yet left, giving them support. Because they're frightened to go forward and speak out.
But doesn't this show that you're not a greedy man, Sandy? Doesn't this show how decent you are by using that money for not just yourself, but it does, Sandy?
No, but I'm just a normal guy like you, like Alan, like Sue, like Jean, so many of us. We're doing this. We're not doing it for money. We don't fucking care about it.
Exactly,
we're doing this because we're so strong, so passionate. We just want justice. All I've ever wanted was a bit of paper for warriors saying they're sorry. That's all I've ever wanted.
Well, let me just come in a minute, Sandy. In the chat room, we've got people. Brian, just come in a minute.
Sorry, Alan.
In the chat room, we've got a lot of people in the chat room as well as us guys on screen. And we've got Charles Ernest Spencer is with us. He wants you to lend him a tenner, Sandy. There's a bit of humour in that, I think. And then Charles Ernest Spencer, he wants you to lend him a tenner. I think there's a bit of humour in that.
No bother, I would give that man definitely. What a warrior, what a guy.
Yeah, brilliant guy. And Kimberly's also in there. We've got Linda in as well. Sean is in there. There's quite a few guys in the chat room. And if anybody, what I said earlier on at the top of the show, there's some big things happening this week. And we've heard about America and stuff like that. And guys are sending stuff through in the chat room now.
Alan, apparently it's not just on the election neither. It's not just on the election fraud. This is massive.
Well, if you look at what this country now, a lot of people don't realise this, that when we voted to leave the EU, let's get one thing straight. It was the common market to start off with. It was called the common market. All this Europe nonsense and stuff like that is coming in years later. The European Union was supposed to have been the common market, which was supposed to have been a level playing field. That was never a level playing field for this country. Never ever. Our farmers lost out, our fishermen lost out, we lost out on so much stuff and trade and business through some of the bigger states in the European Union.
Because the EU have bled us dry.
Yes, yeah. Well, and when you see the size of us and the money that we pay in, it's astronomical.
To be honest, I think Boris. I mean, people might disagree with us here. I mean, I'm not a Boris supporter, but I think he's done a good job. But he's done a good job on the EU. I think, especially.
I don't think so.
Pardon?
I don't think so. I think he sold the fishermen out.
Yeah, the fishermen I'm in full support of.
You know, you ask any Grimsby fishermen, and it's not just the Grimsby fishermen, it's all around the country. You go to Lowestoft, you go to Scotland and anywhere else down south, or north, east, west or south. And any fisherman will tell you, say, they're exactly the same. He sold them out. And there was no deal, Brian. It wasn't a case of a deal. It was to leave or remain. That's all that's what it was. There was no deal about this, that, the other. We were going to make our own trade arrangements and agreements and everything else. It was a straightforward, and that's what 17.5 million people voted on.
So why does this leave?
Another way when you say that, because he signed up, and the Tory governments know they've signed up to the ECHR, the European Commission on Human Rights, right? And we are still part of that because the deal he's done, he's agreed that he's going to continue as part of to keep the European human rights. The police and everything, what they're doing to the people in the streets now is going against all them human rights. So he's breaching human rights.
Alan, Henry VIII laws.
Sorry, mate?
Henry VIII laws.
Yes.
I've read a little bit up on that about a year back, you know, and to me, this is what the police are acting now. At the end of the day, I mean, even the dumbest twit in the world, would notice what the police are doing. They're bringing in, well, basically, the police are now acting like the army.
Yeah.
And that's been all the years. And they're using, I mean, obviously, do I think they should arm the police? No, if there's other ways of doing it. But when it comes to terrorism, you know, but a lot of terrorism is planned. A lot of I mean, people, I'm going to get called a nutcase here, but at the end of the day, in more incidences, terrorism is planned. Look at London Bridge. Look at the knife. Look at the many cases of the knives when they've gone after the big ones. You know what I mean. And the state of the country, it does scare us.
Oh yeah, there is.
Because I'm not prepared. I'm not prepared.
But I think what you're saying is radicalism as well, Brian.
Well, I'm not prepared to have my son go through this. Having to put up with a radical state, communism, hard communism, and that's what's coming. You know what I mean? And this is why, me personally, I'll always speak out for the children, because it's too late. In my opinion, it's too late for the adults, even though there's a lot of people speaking out. You know, and the way the police are doing the tactics.
Yeah.
If you notice, 80% out of 100, it's them. Well, logically, it's them what's speaking the truth. Yeah.
Brian, are they policemen?
After what I witnessed in the miners' strike, no, because
I don't think they're policemen.
Not acting on what the police statutory action is.
I think we've seen in some cases, Brian, that there's been no collar numbers, and all police are in actual fact. If you request to see their warrant card, you can see their identification from their warrant card, and you can see their name. When they're asking for your details, if they're not prepared to give you their details, why should you give them yours?
Because at the end of the day, they're a private force now, aren't they?
You know, they've got the guns and the bullets and the army and whatever the case might be. Sue, did you want to come in there? Sorry, I see you put your finger up.
Yeah, it was nothing to do with this, actually. It was just while Sean was on, I just wanted him to say well done to him for what he did the other day, 5 miles around the field
Yeah, he did a
on
brilliant
his
job.
hands and knees.
Yes, indeed.
The
Well done, Sean.
Yeah,
the
I think, I don't know
PTSD
what the
camp.
total is to date, but at one stage, they was talking about 750 quid. And then the next thing I thought, bloody hell, I looked at it and it was about 1,500 quid. And people were still donating.
Yeah, well done, Sean. We're really proud of you. Well done. You know, and
Brilliant.
also, I was going to say about Jeanette Archer getting arrested.
Right, go on.
Now, it was put up, obviously, and there's been a lot of things being put up about it on YouTube. We've had a lot of trolls, and a lot of them are actually involving John Wedger, which, you know, that he was part of the gang, which he wasn't, and also giving out the child's name, which is totally wrong.
I've never known John to give out the child's name, mind you.
No, it wasn't John.
It wasn't John.
It was actually Jeanette that gave the child's name out.
She gave it out.
She's given it out.
Yeah.
Now, don't people realise that that child's been through enough? You know, he's underage. Now they're thinking about changing his name, moving him away. You know, that child's done nothing.
But he's not in a good place now, Sue, is he? I mean,
No.
we know he's not in a good place now, and we can sympathise with that, and we can get on board with that, and we can understand about that, and that's where we were involved a little bit about it. But you know, kind of like I got an ultimatum. It was one thing or nothing. And I don't like ultimatums. When people turn around and say, "Well, if you're not going to be with me, then it's nothing." And kind of like you can't put survivors in corners. I don't care who you are, what you say. You put any survivor in a corner, they're going to come out fighting.
Yeah, but there was some trolls on there that were saying about satanic abuse. No, I don't care. You know, satanic abuse is real.
Yeah,
It's real.
That's very dangerous.
And the thing is, there's no need to be nasty to the, you know, survivors of satanic abuse. And I found on there was a lot of nastiness. You know, you know, one Kooky, her name was actually talking down to me, and you know, things like, oh, there isn't the God isn't real, you know. And, you know, it was perfect, but it was all, a lot of it was aimed at John involved in it. John was not involved in it. Not by a long shot was John involved in it. He's not been on the scene. He was as surprised as I told him about Wilfred, that Wilfred had been arrested. He couldn't believe it, you know.
But John's been in touch with Wilfred.
Yeah.
There's something with John and Wilfred that it's like a Pepsi Watson and a few other people that people don't know about. There's a lot of people that John's in touch with that are incarcerated to this day.
Yeah.
Right, for speaking out. Sorry.
Yeah. Pepsi's out now. He's free. Pepsi's out, but he wants to stay away, which is his right. You know, he went through hell in prison.
Yeah.
You know, but I think Wilfred has stated that he didn't want the child's name put out there. But there is a man called Owen Lucas. So if you do, is it Owen? Yeah.
Owen Lucas.
I've got him as well.
Yeah.
Well, can you remove him?
Why is he a wrong one?
He's a wrong one.
And also James Hind, Hind. You've got to watch him as well.
Because he's giving out.
I mean, I've had some kind of like interjection with Owen and with SRA. But I said to every single one of them, and I'm going to say it again tonight, our main focus is on the Beechholme survivors.
And all the other injustices.
We are linked with a lot of other people. Like with Jimmy is involved with a lot of other people. And Jimmy, by the way, hasn't been very well. It took him a little bit of a turn. His spray, it's like nitrate. spray helps him under his tongue, but he's finding it difficult to get up the stairs, and I don't think he's going to be doing his show, but he might come on as a guest. Let's hope he gets better enough.
Yeah.
And my total respect goes out to Jimmy, an absolute great campaigner. And if you're on the streets with Jimmy, do you know Jimmy's, every time I've been on the streets with Jimmy, probably half a dozen times now, he's always stopped with me to the end so I get my train home or whatever the case is. And the guy's not been well, and he's had, what was it, 4 or 5 heart attacks?
Yeah.
Really? And he said to me, I don't want to die in my bed, Alan. He said, I'd sooner die with my boots on the ground. But at the end of the day, you've got to look after number one.
He is a good
Yeah.
lad.
Yeah, but
No.
yeah, this Owen Lucas is giving out the child's name as well. And Jean said to me, he's giving out the people that were arrested. Well, it's tough shit about them. You know, they're involved. It's all in the papers. It's everywhere. So it doesn't matter about them. But it does matter about that child. And these people are not taking that child into consideration.
You
A
know
lot
what?
of people have been saying, let me just bring Brian in a second, because I want to say something to Brian. Now, Brian, I didn't bring you on for this, but while Brian's on, now, we all have different opinions. We're all opinionated one way or the other. We've all got our own way of putting things, saying things, and doing things. Right. Now, you've had a lot to do with probably a lot more. You met Bill Maloney, Sue.
Yeah.
There was a problem with Bill, wasn't there, a few years back, Brian, or quite a long time ago?
Yeah, it's something I've always held against Bill. You know what I mean? And until the day it's sorted, I always will. Because even if you listen to Bill, I'll tell you to your face, mate, you know. At the end of the day, everything you said, all right, fair enough, in the early days, Hunter Le Grain, and I mean, I was there with you when you, Angels for Survivors, when you were going to do that film, and I was part of it, but it got stopped. You know, it got stopped because of the way that you were doing things. You know, and I'm no expert. I'm no so-called film producer, Bill. But at the end of the day, it wasn't only that. It was what you'd done in the later years. I mean, it offended me when you interviewed not because the person was gay, you know what I mean, anything but because of the person's views. You know what I mean? It was like Bill was promoting somebody who wanted the age of consent bringing down. You know what I mean? And then he went on to do the amnesty for paedophiles.
He ran, okay, his film business, or his business was Pie and Mash Films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at one stage, Bill was charging people so much money for
Yeah,
doing
I
it.
know what you mean, Alan. I'll tell you. And this is on my word. And if people want to believe it, they can if they want. It's up to them. It's their prerogative. Yeah. This is to do with Merritt Detention Centre. Bill come up, done a film, Merritt Heroes. Bill charged the lad for that. And apparently, I don't know how far this bit is true, but I do know he actually charged the lad because one of the lads what told us, this wasn't a case of whispers or anything like this. It was one of the lads what told us is a damn good lad and he won his case. You know what I mean? And he's an honest person. Bill charged the lad $8,000. And then there was another case where social services were going to take the baby off the child. He filmed it and he charged the lad $10,000.
It comes to you in a minute, Jack.
Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, I was about to say that. I'll just let Jackie in the room for you. So
Yeah, no, I was going to come to. I
I didn't know if you knew that I let her in. That's all. So I thought I'd tell you.
I'm
watching the screen.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's up to people. It's up to people if they believe that. But to me, being a survivor, when he went about doing amnesty for paedophiles, that's an insult to me. It's a personal insult. I think then Bill later said it was to go after the hierarchy. But whether it's the hierarchy or not, you know, the hierarchy paedophile or not, you know what I mean? A paedophile is a paedophile. So to me, when you give amnesty to a paedophile, it means that they'll not get charged with any crime.
We touched on that as well when we're talking about what Sandy was saying earlier on about the Scottish government, and then we talked about Shirley Oaks as well. It's the links and the incidents are so similar. It's unbelievable, to be truthful. But I mean, Sue and Sandy and myself have always been. Now I'm going to say this in front of everybody, and then I'm going to have a quick word with Jackie. Is that John has always stood by Beechholme survivors from day one. He's always stood by Quarriers, Sandy, and you know, people have attacked John for no good reason. There's never, ever been any hard substance proof.
And I say, while I'm at the place, what it is, I think with me, I was getting too involved with people I didn't know what they were on about and things that they were saying, and me being the stupid head that I was, I looked it up, and all that concerned, all that. I mean, obviously, I had different views of the way he was interviewing people, but that's up to him, because I've got the image he was interviewing people like.
Well, everybody's going to have an opinion one way or the other.
Yeah, that's fair enough, right? And then I just wanted to know why the money had gone.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say on here, you know what I mean? But it's been proven to me where the money has gone. Yeah, and I think them people I'm in contact with know this as well, you know. And another thing, I'm not involved with that anymore. I'm not involved with the job.
Can I just stop you there for a second, Brian? Because I want to bring Sue in a second in on that, because Sue's got something to say on that. And also, hi Jack.
All right, darling, don't worry about me. You carry on doing whatever you need to do to carry on with this conversation, and I'll chat in afterwards.
All right, yeah. Just to let everybody know, Jackie's joined us as well, and she's an absolutely brilliant legend. Absolutely love the woman to pieces. Great talker, no bullshit, no bollocks. What it happens and what she says is it. If you either like her, you don't. And what we're talking about tonight is sort of similar to what Jackie's like. You know, if you've got an opinion, fine, but keep your fucking opinion to yourself. Do you know what I mean? Don't bring other people into it. Don't try and put other bits and pieces into other people's heads, because we all listen. And some people are very, very good at trying to persuade other people someone's a wrong and whether they are or not. I've never seen any hard proof on John.
Well, that's
He might not be everybody's cup of tea. He might not be everybody's cup of tea. Let me make that clear. But he has never done anything wrong to me, and he stood by me for at least 2.5 years. Now, if you say 30 months that someone stood by you, then I can't say anything about that. What can I say?
Yeah.
So
I think my first opinion with John and what it was, I took it the wrong way when he done his speech up in Scotland. I mean, when he was saying about Leon Britain, you know what I mean? I had to go out. I had to go out, you know. And then obviously a few people come down to see if I was okay. And then afterwards I approached John and I says, "Oh, did Bill ever tell you about Witherwack House?" You know what I mean? And it was, I mean, he started, "Yeah, Witherwack House." You know what I mean? And I took that as an offence, because it was in a way, I don't know if he's trying to like calm us down. You know what I mean? Or the fact of what he said, I took as an offence because he laughed about it.
Well, you asked Sue, Brian, what I'm like sometimes. I can be very, very touchy. And it doesn't take a lot for people to push the wrong button with me. Because...
I mean...
Yeah, true.
I mean, sometimes the stuff I'm involved with does go to my head. I mean, I'm no professional, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I think some of the things with John, I have been wrong.
Yeah, I'm not saying that callously, and I'm not going against you. I've always got on well with you. You've always been truthful with me, and me and you have supported each other. You supported me, and I've supported you. We done a brilliant interview when I came up to Sunderland. Although the turnout wasn't brilliant, there was still two campaigners like me and you on the streets.
Well, that woman what I spoke to is actually our assigned officer for Survivors North East.
Linda?
No, the quite plumpish one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've been talking to her quite a bit, and she's quite good.
But that Linda story was quite horrific.
Oh yes. Mm-hmm. No,
I might put that film back out again because I've got that film of you and me. And
say what it is, Sunderland City Council and Northumbria Police are very, very pally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Let me just bring in Sue, because Sue, I know you want to say something on this, because like things have been said here and there, and it kind of like hearsay, he said, she said, and we've had problems, and infighting does happen in every group and every party. And people do tend to slag and troll and say things about other people, and they haven't got the clue and the foggiest of what they're talking about. And now, as far as I am concerned, John gave people a platform, right? What they did with that platform was down to them thereafter. You know, he wasn't there to hold their hand forevermore afterwards.
That's right.
And for people to turn around and attack him because he did that, right, was unfair.
Yeah.
Right. Go on, Sue, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, they about the platform, like they were stating that what did he do for them afterwards? John did have counsellors there for them. He did. And for money, anybody could ring John and say, John, I need some money. I've got no money. He's taken food to them. He's given money out. You know, I was there at Trafalgar Square, the same as you, and someone gave John £100. And he went straight away to the security and gave it to them for their petrol, because they were paying their own money to help them. And I also know that he was offered a donation of £5,000, which he wouldn't take because he wasn't a charity, a registered charity. And he told the person to give it to Maggie Oliver because she was a registered charity.
The police whistleblower as well.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people that he helped. One of them, he kept asking for money off of John, and John was giving money. And he actually abused John because he wanted it for drugs. And John refused to give any more for drugs.
Well, the same person tried to get money off me.
So,
did he?
Yes,
right.
that's on my word.
Just let Sandy just come in for a second. Go on, Sandy, what are you going to say?
See, when money's involved.
Yeah, root of all evils.
Yeah. Now, I was talking about I get £10,000, so did Jane.
Yeah.
I'll not mention the guy's name. And Jane lent him £500. And Jane is keeping her son, right? So Jane's not just got her own house to keep, she's got her son's as well. So anyway, Jane lent this guy the money. And the next thing, she was waiting, and it got to the stage of the ask. And it wasn't a very nice reply. A couple of days later, he contacted me. And he goes, get Jane to stick £500 in my bank now. And it was the big capital, N-O-W, now. We're not a bank. We'll help anybody.
Yeah.
We'll help anybody any way we can, but we're not a bank. But see, when money comes into it. Now, I ran a charity a few years ago.
Sure, Sandy, let me try and keep it short and brief, because I want to try and get 6 of us. There's 6 of us in the group, and I'm trying to look at the chat room as well. I just want to bring Jackie in. To give Jackie a chance. Jackie, you've been listening on the sidelines, and you were probably watching the show a little bit earlier on.
Yeah, I've been watching, not very long, I have to say. I turned my laptop on and I had to do so many different uploads and grades and God knows what. I've not long got on to the actual show. But what I have listened to, it's still the same thing. It's disgusting. You know, you're all, I don't know whether you class yourselves as victims or whether you are survivors. But whatever the case is, you have been abused by the people that you were put in their care for them to look after you. And what they done was abused you in turn. And that's absolutely disgusting. I don't care where you are, who you are, where you're from. it's got to be exactly the same thought. It's disgusting. It is not normal. It is not right by any stretch of the imagination at all. And your abusers need to be accounted and made to pay. And by that, I mean going to prison, for their names to all be highlighted and put into prison. And I've seen Sandy a couple of nights now doing lives. And he's been saying about giving this, now quote me if I'm not right on the numbers or the amounts, £70,000, and they sign a waiver and then they can't take them to court anymore. They mustn't mention it to anybody.
Is that right, Sandy?
Well, it's £80,000.
Oh, it's 80. Sorry. Okay, my mistake. It's 80, not
What
70.
happens here? They'll give you 80,000. I could get that tonight, but they've given me £10,000. That money comes off it, so it would be £70,000.
Yeah.
If you get
Yeah.
where I'm coming from.
Yeah, okay. So
else,
it's £80,000 in the hole, and they'll give you that money, and then that means you can't take them to court, you can't talk about it to nobody, and you can't go to the papers about it. That, to me, is telling everybody they're guilty.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're paying you to keep you quiet.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah,
if
but
they was paying you as a compensation for what you'd gone through, and there was no stipulations on it, then I could say, money's not going to buy everything for you, but at least they're accepting what they've done. But they're putting stipulations on it, and that's where it becomes blackmail.
Guys, let's not forget one thing here. There's an important missing. There's an important thing missing from this, guys.
Can I just say,
criminal activity on minors?
Yes.
You know, they put us in harm's way, and they had a duty of care for us, and that is it. Bottom line.
this is why litigation comes into it. You know, this is what this, like I've said before. Then I'll shut up after this to give somebody else a chance.
Yeah, I want to see it coming after you, Brian. Because
and then I'll shut up. Yeah, what it is in 2000, our cases were based on Lister v Lister, which is one of the biggest litigation cases in British history. You know, it was based on that. But I was under the presumption that that when they're paying out the compensation, that compensation is the person's money. But now what I've noticed is you getting awarded 100,000, and then say the overall court costs 150. That 50 grand, that 150 grand still has to come out of the person bringing the case. And that this is what I'm saying, and this is how the law have done it. You know. Anyway, I'll shut up now. Anyway.
No, Brian. I want everybody to have a little bit of a say. And I'm going to come in a little, even little Jean say a little word in a minute. But go on, Sue, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, like Wandsworth Council are taking no action. They're doing nothing for us at all. Right, they're saying they did nothing wrong. Well, why did they put me in a mental hospital at 14 years old for speaking up and telling the truth? For 3 years I was put away, you know, and they're taking no responsibility for it. You know,
I'm keeping you quiet, Sue. That's why they've done it. But they've come unstuck because they've met a bigger wall than what they are. And you're not prepared to shut up, and nor should you either. Well done for still continuing to speak out. The same as Alan, the same as Sandy, the same as Jean, and the same as Brian. I take my hats off to all of you for continually speaking out when all you're getting is a brick wall shoved at you to keep you silent.
Don't make me cry.
It's not about the money, it's about the justice for us. I mean, I've got, you know, I've brought up my grandchildren who were also abused, and I've got my 2 grandsons here. Yes, the money would help me for them. That's all I want it for. I want it because if anything happens to me, they've got no one, and it would help them. But it's not about the money, and I can't see that we are going to get justice. But that's not going to stop me fighting. I will still fight for the children that are suffering now. You know,
so you should as well, because think about Hillsborough. That took 25 years for Hillsborough to finally be released, and for it to be known that the papers were the liars and the police were the liars in it too. So I know it's awful to say, why the hell should you have to fucking keep doing this? Because what you're telling is the truth. Why the
Yeah.
fuck aren't they believing you? But
Well,
it just makes you more angry and more determined to go on than ever.
yeah. I mean, my abuser was put in prison for 3 years, but that wasn't against us in the home.
It's not good enough.
It was against the, he was a scout leader or something. They done him for that.
3
know.
years, yeah, wow.
What's part of that as
you
well,
know,
Jackie,
free-
is the abuser in Sue's house was the abuser that abused one of my sisters.
Good God.
Yeah. And the thing is, you know, he done 3 years in prison. I done 3 years in a mental hospital at 14 years old for speaking the truth. You know, it wasn't the fact that I went in a mental hospital. It was the fact that my family thought I was, you know, a nutcase. They used to put me down, you know, and I wasn't, if I used to say something, it was shut up, you're just a nutcase. And things, you know, I had all that to deal with. And that left me with no confidence. It's only the past 2.5 years that I've actually stood my ground now. And I'm not taking the shit no more.
No, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
You know.
I'll back you up.
But I mean, we all need justice and we're all entitled to justice. You know, they had a paedophile running Wandsworth Council. And that's out there, you know, anyone can see it. But we're the liars.
Mm-hmm.
You
You
can't
know?
all be liars, so, you know, because how many are there of you that are saying exactly the same thing about exactly the same people? So
Well,
you
there
can't
was
be liars.
400 of us at the beginning.
There you go.
Doesn't it
But
say a lot?
now they've given up. There's only about 10 of us now. You know, there was one on the superintendent of the home, which we reported to the police. And I spoke to the police, and it was just me and my friend that we thought had reported him. But apparently there was 10 of us that had actually reported him. But again, nothing was done. The police dropped the case, everything. When I told the police, like when they phoned me up, they said to me, "Can you give us the name of your abuser?" So I said, "Yeah, Harry Gray." And she went to me, "Oh, we knew you was going to say that." You know.
So he's known without the police force, then it wouldn't be surprising if the police are just as guilty as what he is as well. So that's why they dropped the cases.
And there's not one thing about that bloke. You cannot find out nothing about that bloke.
Yeah.
You know, Wandsworth have really covered it up well.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're the only one of the homes that have never been compensated or anything done about it.
Well, actually, I don't want the money. They can stick the money up their asses because I don't want it. And
Yeah.
that's it.
Not gonna give
I'm
you your
just
childhood
fulfilled
back.
and nail.
Yeah. You know, I haven't told all my story. One day I will. But the bit about the hospital's out. I've never gone on about what happened in the hospital or nothing.
Do your memoirs about it, Sue. You know,
Sorry?
and leave it to somebody. Do your memoirs about it, or write a book and leave it for somebody. You know, to
Yeah.
pick it up. I don't mean this in a nasty way, but when you passed away, that somebody else will then read that and think, "Fucking hell, she was telling the truth. Okay, she's not here now, but I'm going to carry this on."
Yeah, I mean, all my grandchildren know about it and they all support me. My daughter supports me, you know, and as I said, I brought my grandchildren up. They suffered abuse and I got custody of them. But now I have great grandchildren. I don't want it to be 3 generations.
Yeah.
You know.
Was it all there, Sue, when you said you got custody of your grandchildren? Now, if you were mental, as they tried to make you out to be, you wouldn't have been given custody of your grandchildren. They would have said, "No chance whatsoever. You're not all the fucking ticket. You ain't going to destroy grandchildren." But they gave you custody of them.
Yeah.
And you, what you were saying was right. So
Yeah.
they've agreed with you on that part and that in principle.
Yeah.
But for what you've been saying about yourself, they said, "No, didn't happen. No, it's not true." So it's a contradiction in all round, isn't it?
Yeah.
contradicting themselves, because one is saying one thing and then somebody else comes along and says something else that's totally different, but it's about the same thing.
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah,
giving
that's
you
right.
what you're saying is right, is true as regards your grandchildren, and they gave you their full custody. Then why the fuck don't they believe you about what you said that's gone on in your childhood?
We find
Yeah.
that all along, though, don't we, Sue? We found that it's like a stumbling block all the way along our journey. And Jackie, I mean, it's nice that you're in, Jack, because you got Jean, Sandy, and myself had punishment of carbolic soap put in our eyes and in our mouth as part of the sexual abuse and the physical and mental abuse that they did to us as children in Beechholme, right? And when I turned around and told my story about them putting carbolic soap in my mouth and in my eyes, and they said to you as a child, "I'll wash your mouth out in soap," it was very true. This industrial floor soap was for scrubbing floors, and they used to use the scrubbing brushes on you. And then Sandy said exactly the same thing to me in Quarry's orphan homes. They did exactly the same with this red carbolic soap. And Jean, they did it to you in the 50s, didn't they?
Yeah, they did that.
Jean, tell us a little bit about it, Jean.
Well, I used to sell my paints a lot because I had a very bad bout and everything, you know. And I used to mess. Yeah, I used to mess myself by accident, you know. And what they used to do is they used to get hold of me, take knickers off me and rub my nose in it. And then they used to run the bath with cold water, put me in the bath, get a big scrubbing brush and get the carbolic soap and scrub my back, legs, everything until my bum and legs were scratched and I was bleeding.
Oh my God.
Jesus Christ.
And they put it in my mouth, my hair, everything. And I did feel sick afterwards when I got out and I had to go over to the sink and try and wash this soap out in my mouth, you know what I mean? And it did make you sick. It really did, you know what I mean? You'd sick all over the floor and everything. And you still had to clear the floor out.
I had the same condition. And it's written in my files that I had the same condition, you know. And I understand everything you say. I totally do, Jay. I mean, it wasn't our fault that we had this condition.
No.
It was something like...
Also, they used to get the back of the brush and hit hard along your backs and everything, the shoulders, everything, and hit you hard as well.
It was
and
Jean,
you in bloody pain after time.
Jean, it was the carbolic soap that they used to use to clean the floors, but it was the floor scrubbing brushes that went with the carbolic soap.
Yeah.
Which was the same difference, and that used to leave your back red raw. The carbolic soap used to burn your skin,
it was all scratched
burn
and
your eyes,
everything,
it burned your mouth. And when I first talked about this, Jackie, I thought I was the lone wolf. And then when Sandy said it, that it happened in Quarries, and then Jean told a bit of her story about it happening in Beechholme, I kind of like, this is a horrible thing to say, but it was like a sigh of relief in some respects, because, you know, when you're telling it for your own sanity, it made me feel like I wasn't fucking crazy.
It must have resonated in you, Al, with what you were saying, and you weren't hearing anybody else say it. And then you've come across Sandy, Jean and Sue, who are now saying the same thing. And Brian, I think I've just heard Brian say, yes, he has it for him as well.
Yeah,
so you've now got 4 other people that what you were saying, that people were saying to you, that's crap, that's bollocks, you know, that never happened. Don't talk rubbish, you're telling lies. You've now got not only these 4, but there are other people that are now, hold up a minute, that happened to me.
It happened in Shirley Oaks as well, Jackie. Because some of the testimony from, because there's an inquiry called ICSA, a government inquiry, and Shirley Oaks was part of a government inquiry of just recent. And there was one of the victims was talking, I hate to use that word, survivor. One of the survivors was saying, I think it was over a telephone link. They did it over a telephone because of COVID. And they were saying they used carbolic soap in their mouth and in their eyes. And it made me cry because I thought, I know exactly what they're talking about.
Do you know,
like, was another thing, Alan. They used to make us drink Dettol. And I had that done to me because I swore one night. And I was a disgrace to this Lord. No wonder I lost my religion. And I was forced to drink Dettol. I don't know what. I drank a lot of gallons of Dettol my time, believe me. And in later life, I passed out on the floor. I was rushed into hospital, my appendix had burst. And my stomach was rotten with gangrene. I spent 38 days. I had to have half my stomach removed.
Jesus.
That's true. And that was through quarriers fucking orphan homes. I'm sorry for my language, but I'm angry here. Real angry ass. And that was all through that. But no, it wasn't. No. We're innocent. We're the innocent quarriers. If people knew what happened in that place, you seen what happened to Jane? You went to see what they did to one of my brother's penis. This is disgusting. That man couldn't even have sex. He couldn't even go and have a family. The stories we could tell. We were guinea pigs in that place. No ass, no buts. We've got the proof.
Well, we had staff in Beechholme that would beat us black and blue with their fists, punch us, physical torture basically, and sit on our backs and rub their genitals against our backs, push us up against the sink, get us in headlocks and rub up against us at the sink, make us do the washing up, pretend they're washing up and come up behind us. And there's so much more we could talk about, and so many things that we haven't touched on. But you and the kids, one of the things that I always remember, and it torments me, and it lives with me all my life, is when I was being abused in the bedroom and dormitory. We used to call them dormitories, the boys' dormitory by Audrey Wilson in Laburnum. All the kids, it was almost like a military operation. They all turned with their backs facing the victim. They all turned and faced the wall as if they turned to look. They didn't know if they were going to be next on the list or if they were going to be part of the problem that was happening. So they turned their backs on you, and all you could see is when you was looking for help was the backs of other children.
Yes, that's true. That's very, very true. That's what happened in Beechholme.
Yeah.
In my cottage. That's very true. I agree with that, Alan.
I don't know about yourself, Alan, or Sue, or Jean, but these other guys now, why did you not report it? Why did you wait till your adulthood?
I did report it.
I did report it.
I did report it. I went to Banstead Police Station.
You get another good hiding.
I went to
Banstead Police Station. You get another good hiding.
I went to Banstead Police Station.
About.
I reported mine. Me and my friend reported it to the police outside our secondary school. He said he would deal with it. We came in from school one day, and as usual, because we was always in the office, he called us out. We went in there, and the police were in there. And he said to us, "Why did you tell lies about being abused and everything?" And we said we didn't. And the police went. As soon as they went, we had to take our knickers down and caned. I was the most caned girl in Beechholme. You know, I was caned for anything. But
this is the superintendent of the children's home, Jackie.
Yeah. And then my abuser, and this will haunt me for the rest of my life. We had two little black boys in there, brothers, and they used to wet the bed. And that bastard used to make them come down. They was 3 and 4 years, 3 and 5, no older than 5, bring their bedding down, and he used to beat them. And he'd make them go in the bathroom and scrub their sheets. Yeah. And you could hear them screaming in there. You know, it was awful. But
and then they used to make you get in the bath afterwards, the cold water that they made you wash the pissy sheets in. But if they hadn't sexually abused you in the first place, you wouldn't have been so frightened that you pissed the bed.
Yeah, but it was when they came down one day holding their sheets, and the little one, his eyes, they'll haunt me for the rest of my life. It was like he was pleading with me to help him. Please help me. You know, it
and I did exactly the same, Jackie. I went to hang on a minute. I went to Banstead Police Station, and I said exactly the same about what's happening to me in Beechholme. and they took me in a Black Mariah, because we used to call them Black Mariahs in them days.
Yeah,
And they
yeah, I
took me in
remember 'em.
Black Mariah back to Beechholme. I went before Jeffrey Banner, who was the superintendent, and he turned around and said, little boys like you that tell lies get sent away. You get sent to Stanford Hill, which was a notoriously bad place for child abuse anyway, and beatings and sexual torture to children. And he threatened me that little boys like me, for telling lies, would be sent away. And they used to try and scare you and put the fear of God into you, so to make you not do it again. And then you got more beatings for. I got beaten anyway for what I did, and he showed me the cane when I walked in. He used to have a cane sit in the corner of his office, Jeffrey Banner, and he bounced me off his knee in this perverse way. If he was getting some sort of kick of it, and he was bouncing his knee up and down with me on his head. Now, little boys like you get sent away, you know.
Good God.
Yeah,
I got the same thing happen to me because I went to Matron, Missouri, and I went into her office to tell her. She got me over the table, pulled my knickers down, got me over the table, and she hit me with a slipper, her slipper, all down my back and that, and my legs. And I come out there black and blue. And she turned around and said to me, if I have any more trouble from you, you go to Camberlow Lodge. And Camberlow Lodge was a remind home.
I went there. But they just, you know, after a year of me being in the hospital, the police found out that what he was doing and come and took a statement off of me. You know, but whether it was because I was in the mental hospital that I never got took to court, or whether he pleaded guilty to it, I don't know. I mean, I never knew what happened to him until about 3 years after. It was only because my little brother told me that he got put away. But then he was back out working for the council, you know, because he wasn't an uncle in the home. He was the husband of the house mother. So he shouldn't have had nothing to do with us. You know, I mean,
it was cruel everywhere you went, Jackie. Every you know, a lot of people turn around and say, you know, not saying every single house was bad and every house parent was bad, but there was so much of it that went on, and the secrecy and the frightenedness of the children that didn't come forward and say anything is because the fear of God was put into them. And even when I went to the primary school, Mr. Margate's my school teacher. He used to hit me over the knuckle with a wooden ruler and slap you around the back of the head. And there was a guy called Mr. Whiteman who had the playground across the road. He went to Shirley Oaks and he was done for abuse as well. And he used to, because they used to put you in shorts, because I thought when they used to put you in shorts, it was easy for the staff to slap your legs. And your legs used to be red raw. And it used to be bloody hurt when it was cold. When it was freezing cold, they used to throw you outside and you had little clothing on and these bloody shorts in the freezing cold or frosty and snowy days. And they used to throw you outside and you had to make your own entertainment, but you had red raw legs from being slapped so often. And in the primary school, Mr. Whiteman used to corner you and he used to say, what you got in your trousers, boy? You didn't have a lot anyway, because you was a young orphan, you was a child, and you weren't going to have anything, you weren't going to have no toys or any surprise or anything. And you didn't even have a hanky, I don't think, in them days. You used to cut a bit of rag up for a bit of tissue or whatever the case was. And he used to put his hand in his pocket. He said, what you got in your pockets, boy? What are you hiding in there? All he was doing was feeling the little boy's pocket.
Yeah.
She's touching you up. And that's happened all over Beechholme. There were staff that knocked kids' teeth out with punching them in the face. I got some, by the time I went to Ash and I got punched in the head by Gordon Reed, I turned around one day and I just give him a look and I thought, like, you can't hurt me anymore. I've had so much abuse in this place. And that might sound a horrible thing to say, a wicked thing to say about, you know, what can you say when you
wicked at all? What you're saying is you're saying the truth of how you felt. You know, so I got put in care, okay? I'm not going to go into great detail, but I was on probation to begin with because I was a silly, stupid girl. And I got on really well with my probation officer and the guy that used to sit in with her. He was her assistant. And I remained friends with them up until both of them passed away, which broke my heart because I absolutely adored both of them. But when I got put in care, obviously my probation order was squashed, and it went over to a care approach. And I got put in care in a children's home. The first one was only for a weekend, and then they found me a permanent one just around the corner. But I'd still kept in contact with my probation officer, and this guy was a assistant. And it was thanks to them that, probably, and me being such a loudmouth, that I don't know whether fortunate is the right thing to say, but I didn't suffer as you lot have. And also, the second children's home that I was put into, I had a fight in there with one of the aunties that you used to have to call them. Thought she was being really clever and went to sideswipe me, and I punched her fucking full on in the gob, and I said, don't you ever attempt to do that to me again. I said, I'd never hit my mum and I'd never hit my dad, but any fucker else, I'll punch her to the ground. And me and her had a fight on the ground, outside in the hallway. We were punching fuck out of each other. I ripped all her blouse that she had on. She was bleeding and I was bleeding. And I got up and I said, I won't say anything about this as long as you don't. I said, if you ever, any of you, ever attempt to hit me again, I'll make sure you all burn in fucking hell. But previous to that, when I first got to this home, you just went up to the hatch and the dinner was there and you took it. And I said, don't eat mashed potato. I haven't eaten mashed potato for God knows how many years. I don't eat swede, parsnips, turnips, you name it, fucking shit, I don't eat it. So I pushed it all to one side, and there was a bit of meat. I think we had a slice of meat, and I ate that. And I put my knife and fork on it and just pushed it a little away from where I was sitting. And this one who ran the home, we had to call her Auntie Joan. She came up to me, flicked me around the back of the head and said, eat it. And I looked at her and I went, excuse me? She said, eat it. I said, I don't eat it. If you'd have given me the option when I was up there, I could have said to you, I don't eat that, and I don't eat that, and I don't eat that. So yeah, I'll just have the meat then. She said, what's put on your plate and what's given to you, you'll eat. Yeah. So I was probably about 14, so I was a lot older, you know, than what yous were, being in there when you was young.
Yeah, yeah.
I pushed my chair back and I stood up, and she wasn't much taller than me. I said, if you enjoy that fucking slop so much, you fucking eat it. And I walked out and I ran from there to where I used to live to two ladies I used to babysit for. And one in particular, I went to her and I said to her what was going on, what she attempted for me to do. And she went, do what? I said, Sally, I'm telling you, she's trying to force me to eat food that I don't fucking eat, and I'm not eating it. She said, right, get in the car. So we drove back to the home, tapped on the door, and the kids had to go in the back entrance. But she said, that's right, I go around the fucking back. We'll ring the doorbell. She rang the doorbell, and Auntie Joan answered it. And she went, you know you come in the back. And Sally just stood up from behind me and she went, she might do, but I fucking don't. And she pushed me inwards. Auntie Jones walked backwards and she walked straight up to her and put her finger to her face and said, I'm telling you, in future, you will give her a plate and she will tell you what she will have on there. If you ever, and I mean ever, attempt to give her a dinner that's got stuff on it and she tells you she don't eat it, and you try to force her to eat it, when she comes to me next time, I'll be coming back. But I won't be standing talking to you, pointing my finger, and I won't be swearing at you. I'll be punching your fucking head into that wall so it goes back into that kitchen and you can tell that fat C-U-N-T that does the fucking dinners, if she's got a problem, come and see me. And every day after that, when I went into the dinner to get the dinners, and I was only ever there on an odd occasion for meals, because when I come out of school, I used to go straight round my best mate's house and stay there until it was time I had to go home. But when I was there, I got given a plate, and I was asked, do you want, don't eat it, don't eat it, don't eat it, no, I'll have just a bit of that. And all the other kids used to say to me, Jackie, how come you don't have it? I said, because I was fucking determined I'm not eating shit. When my parents fed me, they fed all of us food that we would eat. Otherwise, we didn't have it. You know, it
They
was
did
just
the same with us, Jack, in Beechholme. When we were younger, I remember Laburnum was one of the worst houses that I was in, and I was in there for a few years. And they used to put food in front of you, and if you didn't eat it, they made you eat it the next day, and until you did eat it. And so, yeah, you can see, guys, that Jackie ain't changed fucking much.
no.
She still
No.
tell it as is.
Yeah.
And I probably think that's maybe one of the reasons why nobody ever tried anything with me, because I was a big gob, and I was only a little tiny thing. You know, I was only ever 8 stone in weight. You know, so I wasn't this great big lard that could knock anything out. I was a little tiny thing of just under 5 foot, and I weighed probably about 7.5 stone, something like that at that time.
You know what, Jackie? When you started dating, right? I bet
Yeah.
boys were scared to take you for a meal in case, you know, you said, if you said order for me, I'd shit myself. Well, like, I'm not
No,
ordering.
I'd never say to anybody, order for me, fuck that, because I'd say,
Jackie
they'd
would have
bring
given
out the menu, and they'd be so-and-so, and I'd say, yeah, I'll have that.
Well,
But
what
I
if
don't
they
want
took you to
I don't
like?
want sweet, just do me some chips, and that'd be super.
Well, what if they took you to an Indian restaurant and you couldn't get chips or something? You'd be
Well, then I
like,
wouldn't have had nothing, you know, I'd have just sat there with...
Jackie, has any of your boyfriends had a Scottish handshake?
No, but there's one that I fucking love to do the Scottish handshake with, and that's the bastard that I call Chuck and Chops, my ex-husband. Now I'm waiting 23 years, and I can still wait. Well, I won't be around in 23 years.
Guys, I've got to come in because we've only got a few minutes left, guys. Let me just come in for a second.
It's a Scottish handshake, something like the Glasgow kiss. Is that what it's?
Yes, that's what I meant. It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've got to come in and just say a few minutes. I'm going to give everybody a few seconds to finish up on the show, because we've got to finish at 1:45 on time now, because we've gone back to the days where we have a 15-minute break for our next guests to come on, and the Welsh girls are on after us. The protection for the girls from the Welsh are coming on, the Kimberley and Adele. And
They're not the Welsh girls, Alan. They're the Welsh ladies.
Whatever.
Whatever. If Kimberly hears that, she's gonna bash your, she's gonna box your ears, Alan.
Lady, she wouldn't turn around and say, "You fucking plonker." I'm not a lady. I'm an old bird. Jackie, brilliant. Do whatever you say. Now, what I'm going to do is, before Jason actually tells me to, because he's normally, and I'm going to give Sue and Jean something to say. I'm going to give Sandy something to say, Brian something to say, and I'm going to finish off with Jackie. From me, thank you everybody for listening. To the guys in the chat room, everybody was in the chat room tonight, and Charles, Linda, everybody that was in there, yourself, Jackie, and everybody there. I hope it wasn't too harsh for you tonight when we was talking about some of the things that happened to us. It's just the way sometimes when we do talk about it, it comes out of us. And you've got survivors here, and this actual page and this group is what it's all about. Is, you know, us survivors talking and telling our stories. So we don't mean it to come across as hard and harsh or anything like that. That's what happened to us, and we still live with it to this very, very day. So I'm going to go to Sue, Sandy, and then Jackie and Brian.
Gene. Yeah, when the bloke found out about me reporting him, I went back to the house, and they used to have 2 poodles called Brandy and Soda, and every time you walked in, the bastard bit you. And I walked up the stairs, and he was up the stairs. He grabbed me round the throat, tried to throw me down the stairs. So, but I fought him, and then because my brother kicked the dog, because it had bit him, he started attacking my brother. But I mean, he was younger than me. I went for him, and then when obviously they were discussing me being put away, the house that I was previously in, the house mother, she told me years later, she said, "I knew you was telling the truth." She said, "I tried to fight to get you put back in my house, but they wouldn't have it." And we know why they wouldn't have it, because they wanted to gag me.
5 minutes left, guys. Jean, do you want to say something?
Yeah, can I ask Jackie something?
Go on.
Go for it.
Jackie, I'm not trying to be nosy. Could you tell me what home you was in?
I went to a home in Cowley, in Middlesex, was where I went.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Because you live in Kent, don't you?
Yes, but when I was a child, I was still in Middlesex.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you went to that home in Sidcup.
No, I didn't go to the home. No, no.
We could come back to this another time, in actual fact, because and get
Oh, your show needs to be on like mine does. You know, it starts at 7 and there's no one after you, so your show can carry on because you're just getting to the crux of it, and you've got to finish now, which is such a shame.
We'll be back next week.
But what I was going to say is Jean was in a home in Roehampton, a children's home in Roehampton, and Roehampton wasn't too far from Barnes. And I'm sure the children's home that Jean was, well, forgive me for saying this, but I'm sure the home that Jean was in Roehampton. Do you remember that one, Jean?
No, it's in Leatherby, Sidcup. Oh.
No, Roehampton, near
the first one. The first one I was in Seven Oaks, and that was Great Ormond Street sent me there because I was abused when I was a child, a baby.
Mm.
That place you was in with an M, begin with an M or something like that, near Roehampton, near Barnes.
No.
There's links to the Elms Guest House.
No, I wasn't there.
Oh, okay, all right. Anyway, Sandy, let me get with Sandy and let Sandy have a say because we are running out of time fast, and then Brian and then Jack. Come on, Sandy, it's your turn, mate. Sandy?
I'll just thanks again for letting us come on the show. Jason. Sorry.
We've only got a few minutes, Sandy, because we've got to finish at 1:45.
I know, but thanks everyone again. It's a pleasure coming on and listening. Have a fantastic new year. And a wee message out to Ian Livingston from Police Scotland. You're a wanker. Let Stephanie Bonner know where her son's body was found. That's all I want to say in that. But if he doesn't, meet with us. If Sturgeon doesn't. If you are still refusing to meet us, we're giving you 2 months to meet with us. If you don't, we're coming to meet with you. That's not a threat, that's a promise.
Brian?
Yeah, yeah. I just want to say with the new, with the Storm and the new Labour leader, there's a big massive plot on, well not plot, but there's a big massive thing to get him out at the minute. And the rumour is it's either going to be Jeremy Corbyn's girlfriend or Diane Abbott, or it's going to be or it's going to be Ian Lavery MP.
Oh,
so people know I've got a hell of a lot on Ian Lavery. Yeah, so I'll be doing an interview soon with somebody called Kim Drops, and I know over the years I've said that I'm going to say this, I'm going to say that, but I've always worried about litigation.
Listen, Brian, you're welcome to come on the show anytime you want. If you want to jump on, just do that, my friend.
But as people know, I'm not doing this to bring attention to myself. I do have an order on it from when I spoke to INCSA.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a little, what do you call them, Alan? When they put an order on you to stop speaking by government.
Gagging order.
I mean, it sounds stupid to me. Well,
it's like a D thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a
D notices and things like that.
Apparently, it's the official secret.
D notice.
Apparently, it's Official Secrets Act. No, I never knew this till last year. You know what I mean? Anyway, I'll leave it at that, and respect to each and every one of you.
Come back again, Brian. Thank you very much. Jackie, you listen to people. No problem, Brian. You're welcome anytime. Jump on anytime you want. You know where we are every Sunday. Come on, mate, and join us because you're all like the rest of us. You're a survivor, and you're one of us. You're one of our family. And Sandy is sister kin to.
Pain in the bum.
Nice one,
Number one,
Jackie, when you listen to people like our stories and you hear it, and because Jackie's gone through it as well, you know. Leave the last word to you, Jack.
Well, I mean, I don't consider myself a victim, a survivor or anything. To me, it was just part of my life that I got through it. But I got through it with the help of brilliant people who I had around me. And I'm thankful and I'm very, very lucky that I had those people around me and they were looking out for me. But it just breaks my heart when I hear what all you lot went through. And I didn't, because I spoke up and I was heard. and I was heard by two really good friends, which was my probation officer and her assistant, and one of the ladies that I used to babysit for. Had I not have had those three in my life at that particular time, and yes, I was 13, 14, I could have happened to you, happened to me. I don't know, but I was just one of the lucky ones, if that's the right phrase to use, and I'm not sure that it is. But my heart breaks when I hear of what you've all gone through when you were put in the care of people who were supposed to be looking after you, and they didn't. All they done was fucking abused you and tried to destroy you as people. And for that, they should all be fucking hung and have their throats slit and hung upside down so they fucking gag for a breath. And I'd be the one that would happily fucking do it as well. And on that, I end. And I admire all of you. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And a happy new year to you all.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you, my guests, Jean, Sue, Sandy, Brian, and Jackie. And it's from us. We're going to have to say goodnight now and let the girls come on.
Love you all. Love you all.
Thanks, guys.
Love you all too.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Love you all.